Listen carefully. Power doesn't start with money, status, or followers. It starts long before that inside your head. Look around you. The world bows to empty symbols, luxury cars, designer suits, blue check marks, corner offices. But scratch the surface and you'll see how fragile most people really are. One insult ruins their day. One failure makes them question their entire life. One rejection and suddenly they're worthless in their own eyes. They build their identity like a house on sand. Why? Because they ignore the only foundation that actually matters: the mind. Niccolò Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He understood that the person who can't govern his own thoughts and emotions will always end up being governed by someone else. That's why the real arena of power is not the office, not the streets, not social media. It's the battlefield inside your skull. Whoever wins there doesn't need a crown. They rule without one. In this video, you're not going to hear feel-good affirmations or sugar-coated advice. You're going to hear 10 dark mental lessons that will make you dangerous. Not violent, not cruel, dangerous. Dangerous because you can't be manipulated. Dangerous because you are hard to read. Dangerous because you don't break when life hits you. Most people move through life as prey. They're led by impulse, by fear, by the need to be liked. The disciplined quietly dominate the impulsive. The calm always have leverage over the chaotic. That's how it really works. But here's the twist. Real control never begins on the outside. You can't command a room if you can't command your reactions. You can't influence people if you're still a prisoner of your own emotions. You'll never rise above the crowd if you think exactly like the crowd. That's why mental power is the sharpest weapon you will ever carry. Silent, invisible, lethal. This might be uncomfortable to hear. It's supposed to be. These lessons will force you to look straight at your fears, your patterns, and the illusions you've been living under. But if you stay with me to the end, you will not think the same way again. You will walk away calmer, sharper, and much harder to shake. Because once your mind is under your command, nothing and no one really has power over you. 1. Mental power over external power. The world is obsessed with symbols of power. Money, followers, titles, possessions. But all of that is surface level. It's decoration, not structure. You can have millions in the bank, a powerful title, and influence in your industry, yet completely fall apart the moment life stops going your way. Panic, rage, insecurity, and suddenly all that power means nothing. Then there's the opposite type of person. Very little on the outside, but unshakable on the inside. Calm in chaos. Clear when everyone else is confused. Cold when others are losing control. That person has real power, whether anyone sees it or not. Machiavelli pointed out that fortune might control half of what happens to you, but the other half belongs to the strength of your mind. A strong mind can take the same hit that destroys other people and turn it into strategy. Failure becomes data. Pain becomes discipline. Chaos becomes training. The difference isn't the situation, it's your perception. When you train your mind to stop reacting blindly and start observing, planning, and choosing, the external world loses its grip on you. You're not pulled around by circumstances anymore. You start directing instead of just responding. Real power begins the moment you no longer need the outside world to tell you who you are. When you can stay steady while others spiral, confident while others doubt, focused while others fall apart, that's when you become dangerous. Machiavelli's message would be simple. Rule yourself first. Mental power is not about never feeling anything. It's about not being owned by what you feel. When fear shows up, it becomes a signal, not a prison. When pain comes, it becomes the fuel you use, not the reason you stop. Most people live trapped in a loop. Something happens. They react, they regret, they repeat. A mentally powerful person inserts something in the middle of that loop. Awareness. Pause. Observe. Decide. You start seeing through the illusions that control other people. You stop obsessing over outcomes you can't control and start mastering the only thing you ever really own: your response. A weak mind bends under the weight of life. A strong mind bends the situation to extract something useful from it. You build discipline instead of dependence, clarity instead of chaos, purpose instead of comfort. When your mind becomes your fortress, insults stop penetrating, failures stop defining you, loss stops destroying you. Power doesn't need to scream for recognition, it just exists, quietly, firmly. Machiavelli would remind you, he who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. Before you chase control over others, understand this. If you can't sit alone with your own thoughts without running from them, you're not ready to lead anything. If you're ready to claim that inner power, write this in the comments so your brain remembers it. I control my world through my mind. 2. Emotional detachment. Emotions are not the enemy, but when they are driving the car, they will crash you into something eventually. Most people don't lose because they're stupid. They lose because they're impulsive. They say the wrong thing in anger. They make promises in excitement. They make decisions in fear. They reveal their entire inner world just because they feel something strongly in the moment. Machiavelli understood that people are moved by love and fear, but a wise ruler uses both without being consumed by either. That's emotional detachment. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care intelligently. You still feel. You still love. You still hurt. But you don't let those feelings make your decisions for you. When you're detached, you become the observer of your emotions instead of their hostage. Anger appears, you watch it, you breathe, you choose what to do with it. Disappointment hits, you study it. You don't let it paralyze you. A detached mind is like clear water. You can see straight through it. Most people live in a mental storm. Waves of jealousy, fear, rage, insecurity. No wonder they make bad moves. They're playing chess in a hurricane. The person who can stay composed while everyone else is spinning out becomes the one who quietly controls how everything unfolds. Weak minds want to be understood. They want the world to know how they feel, what they want, what hurts them, what scares them. But that's exactly why they're easy to manipulate. Once people know your emotional triggers, they can push them whenever they want. A powerful mind is different. A powerful mind is calm on the surface, even when it's on fire inside. Not because it's hiding weakness, but because it refuses to give anyone the power to steer its reactions. Machiavelli warned rulers never to show too much emotion because emotions reveal strategy, and once people can predict you, they can control you. Emotional detachment gives you something priceless: psychological advantage. You become unreadable, unshakable, untouchable. Pain becomes information. Rejection becomes data. Betrayal becomes intel. Every emotional hit becomes an upgrade instead of a breakdown. Detachment is not coldness, it's precision. You're no longer just reacting, you're choosing. You're using emotions without being used by them. You're not dragged around by anger, fear, or envy. You are deciding how much space they get in your mind. When someone tries to provoke you, they fail. When they try to manipulate you through guilt or praise, it doesn't penetrate. When life throws chaos at you, your clarity remains intact. And that is when you become extremely dangerous. Powerful in silence, sharp in thought, balanced in strategy. A detached person moves like a chess master, patient, unreadable, calculating. They respond, they don't react. They wait, they don't hesitate. They use emotion as a tool, not as a compass. Machiavelli wrote, "He who controls his passions controls his destiny." That is the essence of mental dominance. You feel everything, but you reveal nothing. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I feel everything. I reveal nothing. 3. Breaking the chains of approval. There is a prison built from praise, a cage made from opinions, a leash made from applause. It's called the need for approval. Most people never escape it. They spend their entire lives trying to make everyone else comfortable. They chase validation from family, from friends, from strangers on the internet. They try to fit into expectations that were never theirs to begin with. But every time you need someone's approval, you give them power over you. Machiavelli warned that a person who relies on others for honor, meaning their self-worth, will never have real authority. Why? Because people can sense desperation. They can sense the need to be liked. And they can use it. Approval seekers bend their character to fit what others want. Powerful people make others adapt to them. To become mentally dangerous, you have to break the addiction to being liked. Understand something clearly. Approval is a form of control. People praise you when you benefit them. They criticize you when you don't. It has nothing to do with truth and everything to do with self-interest. When you stop needing their approval, you automatically rise above their manipulation. You stop asking for permission. You stop altering your identity to keep people comfortable. You stop shrinking yourself just to avoid judgment. Respect is not earned through begging. Respect is taken through certainty. Machiavelli believed it was better to be feared than loved if you had to choose one, because fear, in his context, meant stability. Love can change. Approval can vanish. But a strong identity built on inner confidence stays constant. Approval seeking is rooted in self-doubt. Power is rooted in self-definition. Every great leader, every revolutionary thinker, every disruptor in history was ridiculed before they were respected. People only understand your strength in hindsight. In real life, being good is useless if it makes you weak. Being effective is what makes people listen. When you stop craving approval, insults stop affecting you. Rumors stop bothering you. Criticism stops controlling you. Your emotional world becomes internal, not outsourced. That's when your actions become unstoppable. And that's when people begin to respect you. Not because you asked for it, but because you no longer require it. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I don't seek approval. I create respect. Predator versus prey mindset. Every environment, school, work, family, business, relationships has only two types of mental players: predators and prey. This has nothing to do with violence or physical power. It's about mindset. The predator is aware, observant, strategic. The prey is reactive, emotional, fearful. Machiavelli believed a leader must embody both the lion and the fox, the strength to face resistance and the cunning to outthink it. A predator studies people. It watches how they move, how they react, what they fear, what they hide. It knows when to attack, when to wait, and when to disappear. It never shows all its cards. It never reveals all its plans. Prey rushes into decisions. It panics. It hesitates. It seeks safety in approval. It blinds itself with emotion, hope, and overthinking. The mentally dangerous person learns to move like a predator, quietly, patiently, intentionally, not aggressive, aware. They don't brag about their next move. They don't reveal their weaknesses. They don't overshare their goals. They don't react just because someone wants a reaction. They play long-term games in a world full of short-term thinkers. Hesitation is poison, but patience is power. The predator understands timing. It waits not because it's afraid, but because it's calculating. Machiavelli warned that those who wait for permission will always live under those who act. Life rewards bold action taken at the right moment. The predator sees opportunities long before others notice them. It sees danger long before others feel it. It anticipates moves like a hunter tracking motion in silence. This is not aggression. This is awareness. This is what makes you unpredictable and therefore untouchable. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I move with precision. 5. Psychological disguise. One of the most dangerous forms of power is the ability to stay unreadable. Not because you're hiding lies, but because you're protecting your strategy. Most people expose themselves without even realizing it. They show their fears through their reactions. They reveal their intentions through their excitement. They confess their weaknesses through their anger. They give away their entire psychological map just by talking too much. Machiavelli warned rulers to appear virtuous while acting according to necessity. In other words, show the world what it expects to see, but never expose what you're actually thinking. This is psychological disguise. And no, this isn't deception. It's protection. A powerful mind understands that transparency is a privilege, not an obligation. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world, your plans, your doubts, your emotions, or your vulnerabilities. Weak minds want to be understood. Strong minds prefer to be a mystery. Why? Because once people can read you, they can control you. When someone knows exactly what makes you angry, they can provoke you. When someone knows exactly what you want, they can bribe you. When someone knows exactly what scares you, they can trap you. But when you are unreadable, when your face reveals nothing, your tone reveals nothing, your reactions reveal nothing, people become cautious around you. They hesitate. They second guess. They can't figure out whether you're planning, observing, or simply uninterested. That uncertainty is power. Psychological disguise is about layering your presence. You show calmness, but behind it is calculation. You show humility, but behind it is ambition. You show politeness, but behind it is awareness. You show stillness, but behind it is movement. Let your silence do the work. Let your expression confuse them. Let your unpredictability keep them respectful. Machiavelli taught that people judge more by appearances than by reality. So you control what they see. You give them a mask that protects the truth. Appear harmless when you're preparing a breakthrough. Appear confused when you're gathering information. Appear calm when you're under pressure. Appear indifferent when you're watching closely. You become a strategic shadow present but unreadable, visible but unclear. The mind no one can understand becomes the mind no one can defeat. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My silence is my shield. 6. Invisible power. Some of the most dominant people in history weren't loud. They weren't flashy. They weren't even publicly feared. Their influence was felt, not seen. That's invisible power authority without display. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, but even safer to be neither only sensed. Because when your power is obvious, people can attack it. When it's invisible, they can't even locate it. Invisible power isn't about hiding. It's about positioning. It's the way the room shifts when you enter, even if you say nothing. It's the way people adjust their tone when they speak to you. It's the way your absence is felt more than others' presence. It's the way your influence moves decisions without you needing to raise your voice. True power is quiet. The loudest people are usually the weakest. They seek validation through volume. They want to be seen as powerful instead of actually being powerful. But invisible power is different. It's strategy. It's control. It's finesse. To develop invisible power, you master subtle influence. You guide conversations without dominating them. You influence decisions with suggestions, not demands. You let others think your ideas are their ideas. You move without announcing your steps. This is how real manipulators, leaders, and strategists maintain power for years while others burn out. Machiavelli taught that direct force creates resistance. But subtle influence bypasses resistance entirely. People don't fight what they cannot detect. Invisible power is psychological gravity. Others adjust themselves around you without understanding why. When people sense your strength but can't measure it, they're more careful around you. They respect you instinctively. Never forget, the harder it is to define your power, the harder it is to destroy it. Make your presence felt, not performed. Speak less, observe more. Let people underestimate you. They reveal more that way. Be the shadow that guides the light. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My presence speaks louder than words. 7. Self-mastery. 4. World mastery. Everyone wants influence. Everyone wants control. Everyone wants a life that bends to their will. But very few understand the first rule of real power. You cannot rule anything if you cannot rule yourself. Self-mastery is the foundation of every form of dominance, mental, emotional, social, financial, strategic. Without it, everything collapses. Machiavelli said the greatest victory a man can achieve is victory over himself. Why? Because the inner enemy is always stronger than the outer one. Your impulse to react, your craving for comfort, your fear of failure, your desire for validation, your impatience, your jealousy, your anger. These are the forces that destroy most people long before the world ever gets the chance. The undisciplined man is a slave to his urges. The disciplined man uses his urges as tools. Self-mastery doesn't mean suppressing your instincts. It means directing them. You feel anger, but you don't act out of it. You feel fear, but you don't retreat because of it. You feel temptation, but you don't let it steer your choices. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you sharpen your inner blade. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you build another brick in your inner fortress. Every time you stay calm in the face of provocation, you gain control others can't touch. Machiavelli understood that rulers fall not because of external enemies, but because of internal chaos. The same is true for you. Without self-mastery, success becomes accidental. With self-mastery, success becomes inevitable. Self-mastery gives you clarity. It gives you consistency. It gives you strength under pressure. It allows you to adapt without losing direction. It makes you someone people naturally follow, not because you ask, but because they trust your stability. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I rule myself completely. 8. Building a mental fortress. The world is constantly trying to enter your mind. Sometimes it comes through praise, sometimes through criticism, sometimes through fear, guilt, flattery, or pressure. Every word people say, every opinion they share, every reaction they give, it's all an attempt to influence your internal state. Most people let these arrows pierce them instantly. A single insult ruins their confidence. A single compliment inflates their ego. A single rumor throws them into anxiety. Their mind has no walls, no filters, no defense. A mentally dangerous person is different. He builds a fortress. Machiavelli said a wise ruler creates defenses so secure that enemies don't even dare to attack. Your mind needs the same level of protection. Defense, in this case, is not aggression. It's control of perception. It's the ability to choose what enters your mental space and what gets shut out. Your defenses are silence, focus, detachment. When insults come, you don't absorb them. You watch them bounce off your composure. When praise comes, you don't cling to it. You let it pass without inflating your sense of self. When drama approaches, you recognize it instantly and refuse to participate. When manipulation appears, you spot it before it lands. Every moment of silence is a reinforcement of your walls. Every deliberate reaction is another layer of protection. The more selective you become about what reaches your inner world, the stronger your inner world becomes. People who cannot control you will try to provoke you. They will test your limits. They will push emotional buttons, hoping to get a reaction. Not because they're strong, but because your stillness exposes their chaos. A mental fortress is built from awareness. You don't react automatically, you evaluate. You don't respond instantly, you choose. You don't let chaos echo inside you, you let it fade at the gate. Guard your attention like a king guards his crown. Every distraction is an enemy. Every pointless conflict is an invasion. Every emotional reaction is a surrender. Machiavelli wrote that whoever masters himself becomes master over others. The mental fortress is that mastery made visible through behavior. It's what makes you unprovoked during arguments, disciplined under pressure, and able to disappear when people try to drag you into nonsense. Silence becomes your armor. Focus becomes your shield. Patience becomes your weapon. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind is my fortress. 9. Rule. Without a crown. True rulers don't need titles, applause, or visible authority. Their influence exists beneath the surface. It is felt before it is understood. Machiavelli said people judge more by what they see than what they feel. But the greatest leaders invert this rule. Their power is sensed, not advertised. To rule without a crown means your presence alone shifts the environment. You don't demand respect. It forms naturally around you. You don't chase admiration. It gravitates toward your certainty. When your confidence doesn't need validation, it becomes magnetic. When your direction doesn't need confirmation, it becomes unshakable. People instinctively follow the one who appears stable while others crumble. They trust the one whose emotions don't spill everywhere. They rely on the one who stays calm in storms. Leadership, as Machiavelli understood, isn't about being served. It's about being the anchor others stabilize themselves against. Those who depend on authority lose influence once the symbol is removed. Those who project authority from within never lose it. You create gravity through composure, consistency, and controlled presence. The throne doesn't create the ruler. The ruler creates the throne. Influence without announcements. Leadership without shouting. Authority without labels. That is psychological supremacy, the highest form of power. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I lead without titles. 10. The Machiavellian mindset. Final chapter. The Machiavellian mindset is not a set of tricks, nor a collection of manipulative tactics. It is a worldview, a way of understanding human nature, power, and influence without illusions. Machiavelli wrote that men rise by either virtue or fortune, but only those with disciplined minds remain above both. That's the core. Power gained through luck disappears. Power gained through discipline becomes permanent. To embrace this mindset, you must stop imagining the world as you wish it were and start seeing it exactly as it is. People are not consistent. Loyalty is fragile. Emotions cloud judgment. Appearances deceive. Most people move through life blind, reacting to everything, hoping circumstances become kinder. The Machiavellian stops hoping and starts observing. He studies behavior, not words. He reads intentions, not promises. He analyzes patterns, not excuses. This clarity doesn't make you cold. It makes you prepared. It prevents disappointment. It protects your peace. It sharpens your strategy. Instead of being surprised by betrayal, you expected the possibility. Instead of being shaken by chaos, you anticipated instability. Instead of being manipulated, you saw the influence before it landed. A Machiavellian mind understands that emotions serve purpose, but never lead. Logic chooses the direction. Emotion fuels the movement. Most people reverse this. They let fear stop them. They let anger guide them. They let ego blind them. And they call it following their heart, when really they're following impulses that sabotage them. Power comes from reversing that pattern. A Machiavellian adapts like water, flowing around obstacles, changing form when needed, but never losing himself. He is flexible in strategy, rigid in purpose. He knows that indecision destroys more dreams than failure ever will, so he acts. Not recklessly, but decisively. Machiavelli believed that morality without strategy leads to defeat, and strategy without morality leads to emptiness. So the true Machiavellian stands between the two, guided by purpose, grounded in awareness, unshaken by judgment. He doesn't need to announce his values. He embodies them. He doesn't need to justify his decisions. His results do the talking. This mindset does not crave recognition. It does not chase admiration. It does not collapse under criticism. It moves quietly and confidently because it understands the real battlefield is internal. Once you win there, the outer world loses its leverage. Power doesn't corrupt a Machiavellian mind, it reveals it. It shows whether you are ruled by fear or directed by intention. It shows whether your discipline was temporary or rooted in identity. And once your mind becomes disciplined, your life becomes predictable, not because the world changes, but because you stop being shaken by it. Most people live on emotional autopilot. They explode at insults, crumble under pressure, obsess over opinions, and abandon goals the moment discomfort appears. They hand over control of their life every time someone pushes a button. But you've taken a different path. You've learned that thoughts can be commanded, emotions can be trained, impulses can be redirected. You've learned that every reaction is a choice. And you've learned that power begins with awareness, grows through discipline, and solidifies through consistency. Machiavelli taught that the ruler who masters himself need not fear the chaos around him, because chaos only destroys what is fragile. Your mindset is no longer fragile. Your identity is no longer accidental. Your emotions are no longer untrained. Your focus is no longer scattered. You've built a mental fortress. You've sharpened your awareness. You've learned to move with intention. You've become someone who cannot be provoked, controlled, or predicted. Your presence becomes influence. Your silence becomes leverage. Your decisions become signals. Your discipline becomes authority. Remember this: when your mind becomes your throne, no one can dethrone you. When your identity becomes self-determined, no one can rewrite it. When your perception becomes disciplined, the world bends, not because it fears you, but because it respects the stability you radiate. You are no longer a participant in someone else's strategy. You are the architect of your own reality. That is what makes you truly dangerous. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. My mind rules everything.